The image that flickered across screens in March 2026 was meant to be a victory lap. Jeff Bezos, the architect of the modern consumer economy, stood beside Lauren Sanchez at the Vanity Fair Oscars party. The dress was haute couture. The yacht, docked somewhere off the Italian coast, was visible only in the background of a dozen other gossip columns. But it wasn't the glamour that caught the public's attention. It was the geometry. As Lauren leaned into the camera, her hand shot out, not holding his but warding him off. A sharp, reflexive gesture signaling him to step out of the frame, to move behind her, to become the accessory rather than the principal. In that silent, 1-second interaction, the facade cracked. Jeff Bezos, the man who once commanded the global retail market with a single memo, did something astonishing. He obeyed. He stepped aside, smiled a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and vanished into the background of his own life. This wasn't a marriage of equals. It was a hostage video in Dolce & Gabbana. And in the quiet libraries of Seattle, one might imagine MacKenzie Scott reading the morning news, sipping tea, and nodding slowly. She knew. She had always known. To understand the avoidance, the subtle flinch whenever Lauren leans in too close, the sudden scheduling of business trips that conflict with red carpet premieres, the growing physical distance visible in every recent candid shot, you have to look not at the tabloids of 2026, but at the founding contracts of 1994. MacKenzie Scott didn't just build Amazon with Jeff Bezos, she built the behavioral architecture of his success. While Jeff was the expansionist, the colonizer of markets, MacKenzie was the risk officer. Historical accounts from the Bezos' early years in Seattle reveal a dynamic rarely discussed in business schools. It was MacKenzie who negotiated the temperament. When Jeff's infamous come-to-Jesus memos, aggressive, demanding, often cruel in their efficiency, would alienate early employees, it was MacKenzie who smoothed the paths. She was the translator of his intensity. Unlike the current narrative where Lauren Sanchez is painted as a high-energy match for Bezos, the truth is that MacKenzie was the regulator. She was the governor on the engine. The dark truth emerging from the Bezos-Sanchez union is rooted in a psychological principle called mirror versus opposite. Executives often marry twice, once for survival, once for ego. The first marriage, MacKenzie, is to a partner who complements the weaknesses. Jeff Bezos is famously known for his nonlinear thinking and explosive temper. Sources like Brad Stone's The Everything Store detail his habit of exploding in meetings. MacKenzie was the novelist, patient, empathetic, slow-burning. She absorbed his chaos and returned stability. Lauren Sanchez, by contrast, is a mirror. She is also high-energy, chaotic, and fame-hungry. In the beginning, this felt electric. 2 helicopters circling the same helipad. But physics dictates that 2 forces of equal and opposite, or in this case, equal and similar, pressure create a vacuum. They cannot land on the same pad at the same time. This is why Bezos is avoiding her. He is not tired of Lauren. He is tired of competing with his own reflection. The dark truth is that Jeff Bezos is a man who built his empire on controlling variables, and Lauren Sanchez is a variable he cannot control. Let us examine the evidence of the avoidance pattern that mainstream media has mislabeled as busy schedules. In the fourth quarter of 2025, a period typically reserved for Bezos's intense operational reviews, insiders noted a bizarre scheduling anomaly. Bezos began booking solo nights at the 5-star hotel Du Cap Eden Rock in the south of France, specifically on nights when Sanchez was flying in from Los Angeles. The excuse was work-life balance, but the reality was tactical evasion. Furthermore, during the 2026 launch of a Blue Origin mission, a moment engineered for maximum couple publicity, Bezos stood nearly 12 feet away from Sanchez during the pre-launch toast. When a journalist asked Sanchez about the wedding planning, Bezos physically turned his back, a gesture of dismissal so overt that he had to blur the footage for the official release. This is not romance. This is a man building firewalls between himself and his wife. Why the retreat? The answer lies in the one person who refuses to say a single word, MacKenzie Scott. While Lauren Sanchez was busy leasing yachts and posing for photographers, MacKenzie Scott was quietly executing the most devastating psychological counterstrike in philanthropic history. She didn't write a tell-all book. She didn't go on 60 Minutes. Instead, she weaponized competence. In the 2 years following the high-profile Venice wedding, which reportedly cost $76 million, MacKenzie Scott donated $7.2 billion to 360 different organizations. But look closer at the timing of these donations. Multiple forensic analysts tracking the public 990 picofarads tax forms have noticed a brutal pattern. MacKenzie often releases a massive donation cycle within 48 hours of a major Lauren Sanchez headline. When Lauren appeared on the cover of a fashion magazine, MacKenzie donated $400 million to housing initiatives. When Lauren gave an interview discussing her intense love, MacKenzie quietly funded a national network of legal aid for women fleeing coercive control. The message was subliminal but undeniable. While you are playing dress-up, I am saving the world. This is the truth Jeff Bezos is currently running from. He is not avoiding Lauren because he hates her. He is avoiding Lauren because every time he looks at her, he is reminded that he traded a librarian for a headline, and the world is keeping score. The awkwardness at the Vanity Fair party wasn't just a hand gesture. It was the physical manifestation of buyer's remorse. To understand the MacKenzie New aspect, we have to go back to the divorce filing of 2019. The world was shocked by the speed and civility of the split. $38 billion changed hands, and there was not a single leak about infighting. At the time, analysts credited MacKenzie's grace, but seasoned. Psychological profilers suggest a darker, more human reason. MacKenzie had already detached years prior. Friends of the couple noted that by 2015, MacKenzie had stopped attending Amazon executive retreats. She used to be the note-taker, the silent observer in the room. When she stopped showing up, Bezos didn't notice because he was already looking for a different energy. MacKenzie knew that the marriage was over not when the texts were leaked, but when Bezos started valuing celebrity over competence. This brings us to the current dilemma. Reports from body language experts analyzing the 2026 Oscars after-party show that Bezos has developed a touching veto. When Sanchez reaches for his hand, he redirects to his pocket. When she leans in for a whisper, he leans back. This isn't anxiety. It is revulsion born of comparison. Lauren Sanchez is a high-performing individual. She is a pilot, an Emmy winner, a force of nature. But she is a force of attention. Jeff Bezos built a trillion-dollar company on the backs of invisible efficiency. MacKenzie Scott embodied that. She was the invisible infrastructure. Now, Bezos lives in a world where every dinner is a photo op, every kiss is a headline, and every argument is a potential tabloid leak. The dark truth is that Jeff Bezos is now trapped in the very cage of visibility he once craved. Furthermore, the financial forensic trail reveals a subtle shift in asset protection. In early 2026, Bezos moved $2.4 billion in Amazon shares into a blind trust that specifically excludes future spousal claims. This is a man preparing for an exit, but unlike the clean, surgical divorce from MacKenzie, this one will be a mess. MacKenzie had everything to lose, but walked away with dignity because she had her own identity, her novels, her quiet. Lauren Sanchez has built her public identity entirely around being Mrs. Bezos. A breakup would be a career extinction event for her brand, which means she will fight. And Jeff Bezos, who despises inefficiency and mess, is now realizing he married the mess. Consider the behavioral economics at play. In the 1990s, Bezos optimized Amazon for the long term. He sacrificed short-term profit for long-term dominance. In his personal life, he did the opposite. He sacrificed a long-term, stable, intellectually rigorous partner, MacKenzie, for a short-term, high-volatility asset, Lauren. He broke his own rule, and the market of life is now punishing that irrational exuberance. The avoidance we see today, the stepping aside at the party, the solo trips to France, the turning of the back at the rocket launch, is not the behavior of a happy man. It is the behavior of a man who has realized he is the supporting actor in his own disaster movie. Finally, the ultimate dark truth rests in the silence of MacKenzie Scott. She has not just moved on, she has transcended. While Bezos dodges his wife's hand and negotiates prenuptial amendments, MacKenzie Scott is rebuilding the American literary landscape and housing the unhoused. She has achieved what Bezos cannot: irrelevance to the drama. She is free. Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world, standing on a red carpet, terrified to touch his own wife, because he knows that every paparazzo flash is a reminder of a deal with the devil. When he looks at Lauren, he sees the death of his privacy. When he looks in the mirror, he sees the man who sold his judgment for a thrill. And when he dares to think of Seattle, he sees the ghost of a partner who actually knew how to fly the plane without needing a camera to record it. The avoidance is not about Lauren. It is about the shame of having left the one person who made him look smart. MacKenzie knew that day on the garage floor that the boy building bookshelves would eventually try to touch the sun. She just didn't expect him to burn himself quite this slowly.